Committee Chairman, Senator Lindsey Graham, and Ranking Member, Senator Feinstein, and North Carolina Senator Tellis, and members of the U.S. Senate Committee on the Judiciary, I bring you greetings on behalf of the Executive Board and members and constituents of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, NOBLE. My name is Saralyn J. Davis, and I am the National President of NOBLE and the current Chief of Police in the great city of Durham, North Carolina. I have served more than 34 years in the law enforcement profession, my first 30 in the city of Atlanta. It is an honor for NOBLE to provide written testimony on the topic of police use of force and community relations. NOBLE joins our grieving nation in condemning the policing tactics, actions, and inactions that led to the death of Mr. George Floyd. We are also alarmed and mourn the horrific killings of Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and now Rayshard Brooks. These names represent just a few in a much longer list of tragedies impacting communities of color. The senseless death of George Floyd has gained unprecedented attention around the globe. People from every walk of life are collectively demanding that justice must be fair, justice must be transparent, and justice must be equal. Though it is very important to pursue justice against those responsible, it is just as important that we address the systemic shortcomings and oftentimes failures of our law enforcement and criminal justice systems. Many police leaders in the United States have already accepted this monumental responsibility and are obligated to working towards meaningful change. NOBLE is fully aware that addressing issues within the law enforcement spectrum is a very small part of a larger, more complex construct comprised of America's continued imbalanced distribution of critical resources. History has shown that many minority citizens have been disenfranchised from the American dream from generation to generation. America will never realize her true potential until all of its citizens' humanity is equally valued and protected through racial and social justice. NOBLE offers the following recommendations as it relates to the scope of use of force. A national minimum use of force policy, incorporating the following best practices: mandatory de-escalation training for all officers and policies that require the use of de-escalation tactics as a priority. Prohibition of chokeholds, mandatory requirements that all officers render immediate medical aid, mandatory requirements that officers intervene where physical force is being applied to either stop or attempt to stop another officer when force is being inappropriately applied. NOBLE proposes comprehensive legislation that incorporates the aforementioned, but also includes mandatory law enforcement accreditation as a national requirement, reevaluation of police qualified immunity, provide the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department enforcement oversight against pattern and practice discrimination, continued appropriations for the Department of Justice Community Relations, federal data collection in the following categories: use of force, traffic stops, pedestrian stops, and detentions. A national database that maintains a listing of officers with patterns of misconduct to prevent negligent hiring and retention. We wholeheartedly support the passing of the Justice in Policing Act, which specifically addresses the loopholes that continue to allow policing tragedies free of oversight and accountability, environments that foster unfettered racial tension, and the continued desecration of what I've always thought to be a noble profession. We also recognize the majority of police officers who demonstrate on a daily basis their love and commitment towards the tenets of 21st century policing and the safety and well-being of the communities they so courageously serve. However, today, at this critical moment in time, NOBLE encourages Congress to act with deliberate haste to pass transformative legislation to reform the system of policing. As an African-American woman, I can unequivocally attest to the perpetual existence of discriminatory practices that remain a haunting reality for people of color throughout our nation. It is critical that we first acknowledge the pressing need for a comprehensive and holistic approach to change, and then urgently begin the process of mapping the way forward towards policing reimagined, enlisting guardians and not warriors, those who value all communities and the sanctity of life. And finally, on behalf of more than 3,800 law enforcement leaders, mostly minority, who represent the membership of NOBLE, we thank you for supporting the law enforcement profession, but more importantly, for listening to the voices of protesters and others around the globe who demand change. On this occasion, I am cautiously optimistic that the cries of our America will be heard and acted upon so that once and for all, Black lives are valued in the eyes of all police officers as more than a counterfeit $20 bill, more than a carton of cigarettes, and more important than simply showing up at the wrong address. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Chief.